Hey, it's Ammo from Difference of Skill, and check out my new Pacifica mat, which is actually not so new because it came in quite a while ago, but it's been forever since I did a video other than Cards for Tots. So today I'll be doing a Link Joker deck profile. So I'll be showing these Nebula Dragons that I don't use. Okay, so I'll get into this a bit later actually. Just actually want to bring it up because it'll be kind of relevant in a bit. So I'll start with grade 3s, because I guess I'll be talking about Nebula Lord shortly. Alright, so like all Link Joker decks, what you want to play in this competitive format is 4 Chaos Breaker Dragon. And just to review what Chaos Breaker Dragon does is, so he has a Counterblast 1 effect. You have to discard 1 Starvader card from your hand, and then you may choose 1 card from your opponent's side of the field. So 1 Vanguard on their side of the field, and lock it. Now this ability can only be activated once per turn, otherwise it'll be freaking broken. Because, so it's like a -1 to lock 1, while really small cost to pay 1 counterblast. But his Limit Break 4 ability states that when your opponent has 1 card that's going to be unlocked, you may Soul Blast 1 Starvader, and then you may retire the unit that was locked, and then you draw 1. So basically if you use the ability to lock a card, you get your card back next turn, assuming that you're at 4 damage. And you also get to retire it. Now, this ability, of course, is very broken because if your opponent happens to play cards that have to lock themselves, like reverse, basically anything reverse, they basically have to lock their own cards, right? So that will basically generate you free advantage, basically giving you like +2s if they lock themselves, and I think more than a +2 actually. I think it's a +2 if they lock themselves, but it's also like a +2 if you lock them yourself as well. So, a very good card. Not going to go into too much detail of this. The only downside is that it has a bit lower... It hits for a bit, like, not as hard as most Vanguards these days, but very good ability because it helps you sustain like your game. Very good. So the other grade 3 I play is... so I play 3 of the Break Rides. And this is why I kind of want to talk about Nebula Lord, because some people might ask me why don't I just play 3 Nebula Lord instead of 3 Break Rides. Okay, so first of all, if you guys don't know what the Break Ride does, it gives 10k when you ride over it for some other grade 3. And in addition to that, you also can... Wait, I see something here. In addition to that, you can also choose one of your opponent's front row and one of their back row and lock it. So very powerful ability, one of the better Break Rides in my opinion, like because you can lock 1 front row and 1 back row, that stops your opponent from doing a lot of things, especially most of the time you would just lock 1 front, when your opponent's front row, like front rear guards, and then the middle back column, right, so that they can't boost their Vanguard for like a larger attack. So that helps. This deck sustains it sustains a lot. It gives you a lot of advantage whenever you Break Ride with this card. Now, why don't I play the Nebula Lords? Which is why I brought them up, because I want to talk about it. Because I feel like Nebula Lord is kind of, like, the effect's kind of underwhelming. It has a lock ability, just like Chaos Breaker Dragon, but it costs twice the cost, and the thing is you can only lock the back row, which is not as powerful. It doesn't really stop your opponent from doing as many attacks as they could do, and at the same time the only really upside is that they basically attack for smaller because of they can't boost for 1 of their units. And the other thing is his Limit Break 4 ability is a +3k to front row for every card that's locked. Now that's actually not too bad of an ability in my opinion, but the thing is it's a Limit Break 4 ability, meaning that if you want to lock your opponent's cards, you have to kind of wait until your Limit Break 4. Now, because of that trade-off, I'd rather just play the Ride Breaks and then hopefully ride into a Chaos Breaker Dragon, because that would give me a lot more advantage. Because like either way, you have to wait until Limit Break 4 to really start doing, start activating your abilities to get the max potential out of it. But meanwhile, like with Chaos Breaker Dragon, you don't actually have to, you can use this before Limit Break 4 and just anticipate that you'll get to the 4th damage next turn. Of course, you can also just do it really early in the game if you need to. And that's kind of why I don't play the Nebula Lord Dragons. Because like either way you have to wait till Limit Break 4 to really like use your abilities, then in that case I'd rather just go for a Ride Break, which will basically gave me a better benefit. because you're gonna have to wait for a while anyway. So let's move on to grade 2s. I'm doing pretty much done the most important cards in the decks. Well, not really. So first of all, I played 3 10k beat 6. They're all SPs because the SPs and a lot of SPs in this deck are actually really cheap to get, so I just happen to get them. Anyway, why do I play this? Because I feel like 10k beat 6 are still pretty good in this format. It helps you block your opponent's Vanguard if they happen to be 9k like completely. So if you have a 10k guard, you can just shield or attack, basically stopping a lot on hit effects. And that's why I play this. And then I play probably one of the most important grade 2s in this deck. I play 4 Colony Makers. So her effect is when my opponent has 1 card locked, when I play this card, I can counter +1, and then select one grade 1 or lower Starvader in my deck and call it out to any open slot on my rear guard. Don't worry, it should be open slot. Not really gonna check because it doesn't really matter because I don't feel like anyone's gonna use it if it's not an open slot anyway. So very good card. It gives you a +1, and it's a very cheap cost. It's only counter +1. The condition is you need your opponent to have 1 card locked, so it's not too hard in this deck, especially as long as you ride your Chaos Breaker Dragon. It's very easier to have your have 1 card on your opponent's on the field locked. Of course, in that case, when you think about the conditions, it's kind of like a 2 cost to actually activate this effect, right? But it's still a very good card in my opinion. Like either way, if you ride break, right, you're still locking your opponent, so that's quite beneficial as well. So the only downside about this card is if you can't really use this early in the game, even if you have cost, unless you can lock your opponent's cards. So that's kind of the downside, because if you get it really early in the game and you're forced to ride it, then you don't really have a choice because you have to ride it. But on the other hand, if you want to take it out to attack, you might want to hold on to it because you want to activate the effect. But because your opponent doesn't have card locked, you don't necessarily want to do that a lot of times. So that's kind of the downside about this card. It's just that sometimes you can't rush this heavy with the card. But in this particular format, you don't exactly want to rush all the time. Like rushing is still pretty good in this format, but like it's not in the case that you actually want to hit the Vanguard. You want to hit the rear guards, so you can't really do that with that card. So that's kind of the downside of the card. So moving on to the last 4 grade 2s, I play 4 12k beat sticks. There's really nothing to be said about this because in general these cards are just very good in this format. It hits 12k, it can hit a grade 3 Vanguard by itself as long as you play Starvader, which is basically the entire deck. So it's not really a big deal, and you can also take out a lot of pesky grade 1s because a lot of grade 1s nowadays are just 7k. Well, grade 1s are always, a lot of grade 1s were 7k and below back then as well. So yeah. Okay, so let's move on to grade 1s. So first of all, I play 4 perfect guards, just like any normal person really. There's really nothing to talk about here about the grade 1s. Like, people just play 4 perfect guards a lot of the times. I play 1 SP AK booster. The reason for this is just because I feel like one of these as a side, or like as a tech, is a pretty good tech. Just because if I want to hit, I can hit 20ks. If I have a 12k attacker on the front, which is not bad at all. I can hit 19 as well with a grade 3, and those 2 numbers are actually pretty decent because I can, if there's any like really annoying rear guards, or if I really want to kill a rear guard and get it off the field, then 19k or 20k is perfect because a lot of level 2 rear guards nowadays are just 9k, right? And if it's if it happens to be 10k, then 20k is really good as well. And if I ever actually happen to run into like a 10k Vanguard, then this can become very useful as well. The other thing is I can put this behind the middle column. Whenever I have the break route, I can hit 21 now. So pretty useful tech. It's the only non-Starvader, that's the only downside, but it's only 1 card, like 1 non-Starvader in the whole deck, so it's not really a big deal. And Chaos Breaker Dragon actually doesn't need to use a Starvader, like Counter Blast, like special Counter Blast, so it's also fine. Yeah, Chaos Breaker Dragon only uses discard Starvader, but yeah. But there's also another card, the other cards in this deck actually don't need to flip Starvader as well, so it's not really a big deal. So I can actually just use AK Booster fine. Alright, I play 1 10k booster for Chaos Breaker Dragon. Now this actually has no cost. As long as you're boosting a Chaos Breaker Dragon, it becomes a, okay, not 10k, it's 11k booster, but it's about the same. So I only play one of these because I don't like playing too many 6k in my decks normally, and whenever I actually need it, I would just use Colony Maker to search this up. So quite useful, helps you hit 21, which is kind of much needed. Not really like needed, but like it's very useful to have because Chaos Breaker Dragon doesn't hit that hard compared to a lot of Vanguards these days. I play 4 10k beast sticks at grade 1. These are also very useful. Like early game, it helps you rush and whatnot. It hits the Vanguard even when they're at grade 2, so I don't really need to explain or go too much detail into this. And then I play 4 Star Vader Parashimu. So what does he do? So he's when your opponent has one card, when your opponent's card at the end of the turn is about to be unlocked, you can pay 1 cost and put this into the soul, and then you can lock that card again. So basically you can continue locking a card after the lock effect is over. Now this is quite useful in this deck as well, because not only is it searchable by Colony Maker, you can basically continuous lock your opponent, and with the combo of Starbreaker Dragon is you can choose not to draw one because you're gonna continue locking it. And then while you continue locking it, you can lock the other side of your opponent's field, so you can lock 2 front rows on 1 turn, and basically that will just ensure that your opponent can't really attack at all unless they have a restanding Vanguard. But either way, it stops your opponents from doing a lot of things. It's quite good. At the same time, if like whenever your Starvader like Chaos Breaker Dragon, when you run out of Soul Blast to use for the Limit Break 4 ability, basically just gives you another lock, and it also gives you a soul. So you can use it the following turn to retire something. So quite a good card. It helps continuous locking. It helps double roll locking, which is actually very useful sometimes. Even though double locking is actually quite costly in general. And then the last great one I play is one of these. I think her name is, can't read it, Star Vader Ichiku Mono. Okay, anyway. So what she does is when she comes out on the Weird Guard, when your opponent has 2 or less Weird Guards, you can choose to discard 1 card in your hand and draw 1. Now this is just tech. I think it's one of the very useful techs in this game. I like to run these a lot in quite a bit of my decks. I only play 1 because just there's not really much space to play this. Now this actually works specifically better in this deck compared to other clients, because when you lock your opponent's field, they basically have 1 less Weird Guard, right? And sometimes it just happens that whenever you use this, you happen to basically gain that, you basically fulfill the condition of this card. So very useful in a lot of ways, and whenever you really need to use it, you can use Colony Maker, and at the same time when you use Colony Maker to call this out, you'll likely fulfill the condition just because Colony Maker requires a card to be locked already. And then the last I'm going to go with is my great ones. So I played the starter, which the name is really too long. Datsudo Desuru. Unicorn. Oh, so he's a dark unicorn. Okay, so oops. Just fix this a bit. Okay, so he is the Link Joker Unicorn starter. What he does is if my opponent has 1 card locked already, I can pay 1 cost, put this in the soul, and then lock another unit. Now this helps me double lock as well, because I can use Chaos Breaker's Dragon ability, lock 1 front row, and then use this ability and lock the other side. Not really used all the time because I don't feel like there's not many situations where you actually need to double lock your opponent, because you don't really need to lock 2 front rows all the time to like gain maximum like advantage of this deck, because locking 2 rows, like locking 2 columns or like 2 rows, 2 cards, takes quite a lot of cost, and it drains a lot of cards from this deck because you need to discard and then you need -1, so it's like a -2 in 1 turn. And sometimes you just need the card to like boost with an attack, or you need to use cards to defend, right? So it can be quite costly, but sometimes it's like a lifesaver, because sometimes when you're really out of guard, double locking can bring you a lot of potential. But like the trade-off advantage is, of course, you might be missing you might be hitting not as hard, or you have a bit less to guard. Usually the bit less to guard is not much of a problem. It's the I can't attack as hard thing. But it is a very useful like gimmick this client has. Like sometimes games just require you to double lock to survive, so it's quite it's quite a benefit. Like, it's quite a benefit to actually just have the option there to like be able to double lock. Although it's not actually the best idea. Okay, so I'm gonna go triggers last. So I play 4 heal triggers, just like everyone else. Not really a big deal. Play 4 draws. And then I play, of course, 8 criticals, right? Play 8 criticals. Crit. That's how you win games. That's how you deal with all the bullshit in Vanguard meta sometimes. It's like, how do I take care of Narukami Eradicators? Well, just double crit them before they hit Limit Break 4. Easy game, right? Now, jokes aside, like, most decks just play double crit because crits are better than stands, and you don't want to play too many draws, so not really much to talk about it. And then, do I have some time left? Alright, I'll spend a bit of time. So yeah, basically Chaosbreaker Dragon is what really like helps this deck sustain the game. Like, if you get to ride this early, then it's usually the better option, because if you ride this early, you can stop a lot of things. You can stop your opponent from rushing you because you can lock one of their like units, right? And they just can't attack. And sometimes in the early game, when they put like a booster behind their unit, it's really hard to actually do the same on the other side, especially when it's still early stage. That means you kind of save yourself a lot of guard if you need to. Now, of course, I already went over how you can double lock. It's very useful. Like, it's not done all the time because it costs too much hand and like cards in general. But like, that's the general idea is just that if you need to double lock, then you don't really have a choice. Of course, you hit a lot smaller, meaning that you probably won't do that many damage to your opponent, but it'll probably guarantee your survival half the time if you have to do a double lock. Most of the time, I activate Starbreaker's Dragon's ability pretty early, just because if I have a Colony Maker on in my hand, I would like to actually get my 3+1 a bit earlier than usual. I think the nice versatility of this deck is that, like, you can activate his ability early and just take a hit from the Vanguard or something from their opponent, and then you'll be at Limit Break 4, right? And then suddenly your ability just happens to active. So in a way, it kind of activates earlier than a lot of different like clans, because it's pretty beneficial to actually activate this effect early as well, besides late game. Like, other clans have effect that activate early and it's beneficial as well, but they don't get the second part of their effects until Limit Break 4. But this like Limit Break 4 ability actually activates at the end of your opponent's turn, so basically it has to get back to your turn. So it works out pretty well. Like, it works out pretty well to actually just activate this at something like 3 damage, because more or less you kind of guarantee you're going to be at 4 damage next turn, because you can just take a big hit. And okay, and that pretty much wraps up my Link Joker deck profile. If there's any questions, as always, just put comment down, like the video, subscribe to us if you haven't, and I'll be seeing you in more deck profiles or videos that I plan to do in the near upcoming future. See ya.